guess what? This is Karen, and I'm from newclevelandradio.net. I don't even know where I am right now. And it's time for What in the World with Paul Seaburn and his sidekick, John DiNallo, who's in a Halloween costume.
Yes, my Halloween costume today, as everyone that is on YouTube seeing this, my costume today is I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. And some of you may know that already, but my wife actually suggested it this morning and says, well, if you guys are going to have costumes, why don't you just go as a Browns fan? So the only thing I'm missing is my beer, okay, which, you know, it's a family show, right? So, but hey, outside of that, I mean, we're going ahead.
In Cleveland, that is the scariest thing to be today is a Browns fan. So, John, you fit the bill on our annual Halloween edition of What in the World, everybody's favorite weird news podcast. I am Paul Seaburn, your host. The voices you heard in your ear just recently, Karen Hale, our producer, media mogul at newclevelandradio.net, our platform. All around good person, helpful person. Check out everything she's got at newclevelandradio.net, all the great podcasts. But first, as always, check out our podcast, What in the World. The other voice in your ear is the lovely and talented John DiNallo, host of What in the World of Sport, our co-host, our color commentator, and all-around good guy. We already said hello to you, John, so we got too much stuff to cover today.
Well, let's get to it, Paul and Karen. Let's go. Let's get to it.
Well, I have to mention, for those of you who are not watching on YouTube, either now live or in the future, if you're listening to us, I have on my costume, which is a Gulardi t-shirt, and I will stand up so everyone can see a picture of Gulardi. The message on it says, "Does this show go to Parma?" Which is something that Gulardi used to say in the 1960s when he was the host of a horror movie show on Friday nights in the sixth largest city in the nation, where everyone in the city was watching the show, watching the movie and watching the skits that he did. On the back of my shirt, I think it says "turn blue" and all the other things he used to say. It was he corrupted an entire city. And I mentioned Karen show. I spoke recently at a UFO conference in Belleville, Ohio, just a mere 50 miles from Cleveland. And to show you the impact, I had dinner the night before with people who I'd never met before. It was the first time I met them. I was telling them what I was going to talk about. I mentioned Gulardi. The whole place stopped. Everyone had a Gulardi story. The man sitting next to me was one of Gulardi's camera people. So he filled me in on some stories about Gulardi, that he wore a Gulardi shirt the next day. Another person wore a Gulardi shirt the next day. When I mentioned Gulardi, they stood up and cheered. That is the impact. That is the man who corrupted the minds of the three people on this show. Oh no, Karen, you don't count because you grew up in Detroit, but you know about Gulardi.
Well, I learned about Gulardi once I moved here, so yeah.
Okay. Sure.
All right, so we filled everybody in on Gulardi. I'm playing around with my sound here. Somebody say something there for a second there. John, what are you doing?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, we're good. Okay.
All
right. So
good.
As always, sound issues, hopefully we'll get rid of them as the show goes on, as the tubes in my PC warm up.
Now you're dating everybody, Paul. That's what's
there you go. So the answer to the question, does this show go to Parma? The answer is yes, because we have friends of the show like Bill Z, good friend of mine, and John's, and many others in Parma who are watching the show, along with people in Texas and around the world. We welcome all of you. We thank you for being our listeners. We love doing shout outs. So contact me on Facebook, contact Karen through New Cleveland Radio. And enough of that. Let's get right to the show. It's our annual Halloween show. So, of course, we'll be talking about strange candy and some strange costumes. So get ready for that. We'll paint pictures in your mind, so in case you're not watching on YouTube. John just mentioned that he's going down to Florida. I've got a Florida Bigfoot story, so you might want to be looking for Bigfoot while you're down there.
We'll be keeping an eye open. We always do when we're in Florida.
Good.
And also, I would make sure I would have my my iPhone right near when they can take a clear picture. But with all the trips we made on there, we strike out all the time. But never know. You never know. Maybe next week we'll be all
Well,
right.
okay, I've got a tip from Scotland because a person witnessed the Loch Ness monster, and he has some advice on how to record your encounter should you
Hey, good.
encounter Bigfoot while you're down there.
Yeah.
Also, a famous celebrity came out this week with a UFO encounter that she had, so we'll be talking about her. A woman who I've talked about on this show many times before, who fell in love with a ghost, married the ghost, has now divorced the ghost, and has taken up an unusual occupation and career as a result of those experiences. We'll be talking about that. Weird foods from around the world. Strange McDonald's from England. You're gonna want to hear about this one. Plus more odd news, more trivia, got some world records. John has a great sport. I laughed just thinking about it. I know I've got some good pictures for you, John. So
Thanks, Paul.
let's get right to it with the first story. So it's our annual Halloween story. So naturally, we want to start out with a Halloween story. This one comes from Buenos Aires, Argentina. They have Halloween everywhere, including Argentina. So in Buenos Aires, an estimated 2,000 people went to a public square in downtown Buenos Aires dressed like this. Let me see if I can get a photo up here for you. There's our logo, and let's hit the little arrow over here. And here we go. Okay, a little bit blurry.
Oh my.
Wow, Spider-Man.
Must be in this photo
Yeah.
somewhere.
Wow.
But what we're looking at is 2,000 people all dressed like, excuse me, like Spider-Man. All
Wow.
dressed in various Spider-Man outfits. Everyone has the mandatory Spider-Man mask on. They broke the record for the most number of people in one location in a Spider-Man costume. Blew it out of the water. I think the previous record was like 650. So there were actually more, but before they could be counted, their spidey senses started tingling, and they went chasing after a girl named Mary Jane, who just happened to be walking by. So
Oh,
Mary Jane is Spider-Man's wife or girlfriend, or depending on when you join the story, just for those of you who aren't Spider-Man aficionados. So good lead into Halloween costumes. What do you think is the most popular Halloween costume in the year 2023? Karen, how about you? What do you think?
Oh, it's got to be Barbie and Ken.
Oh, good guess. John, how about you?
how about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce?
Also good guesses. My guess was George Santos, because no matter what you dress as, you're George Santos. So
That's a good one, Paul. Paul, you're the winner on that one.
I don't know if my horn's working today. I don't think it's working.
No.
Okay.
No.
So Karen, if you said Barbie, Barbie is the number one costume in 2023. Believe it or not, number two is a princess, just the generic Disney princess or any kind of princess, a British princess, I suppose. Number three is Spider-Man, who we're looking at right here, Spider-Man. Number four is a witch. It's amazing that witches are still in vogue after all that going on in the world and all the women's rights in that. Witches are still a popular costume. Number five, also unusual, a fairy. Again, these are female costumes, although they could be male in this day and age. We're not going to judge. Number six, this one I love. Wednesday Addams. Wednesday Addams was a show that was just on recently, but Wednesday was the star of all the Addams Family movies, and then before that, the black and white TV show that we grew up on when we weren't watching Gulardi. So I thought that was an unusual costume. Number seven, a dinosaur. So for the little kids. Number eight, a cowboy. Number nine, a ninja. Number 10, a bunny. Okay, so
Wait, what was number 10?
A bunny. Bunny. So John, yeah, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. I saw there's a lot of Taylor Swift costumes being sold, and a lot of girls coming dressed like supposed to be dressed like Taylor Swift, but did not make the top 10. So,
No,
Interesting.
go
you'd have
figure.
thought that, but okay. All right.
Yeah. All right. So for everybody out there, I want you to think back to your very earliest memories of Halloween. What's the first costume that you can remember wearing? John, how about you? Let's start with you on that one.
I got one here for you. I think I was dressed like a baseball player.
Oh,
And
what a shock.
well, yeah, well, no, and I think my mom actually put it together, obviously. But if not, if it was not the first one, it was one of the first five or whatever that I would have had. But I'm going to say baseball
Okay.
player. Yeah,
A homemade costume.
homemade costume by my mom. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Karen, how about you on the girls' side?
So my mother dressed me up like a gypsy every year. She would take like an old dress of hers and, hike it up on me or whatever and put a turban on my head and makeup. And I went out like a gypsy and I felt beautiful.
Well,
Okay.
I'm sure that was a popular costume. Could also double as an old maid or an old lady or something like that. Although when you're 6 years old, you're not going to go out as an old lady. Very, very politically incorrect today. I don't think
Oh,
anybody's
yeah.
going out as
Very much
gypsy.
so. Sure.
So my first costume that I can remember was Tom Terrific. Do
Oh,
any of you
Oh
remember
my.
Tom
sure I do.
Terrific?
Yes, I do. Yeah, sure.
So they actually still sell Tom Terrific costumes on eBay. Here's a photo of one.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
For those of you who can't see it, Tom is like a smiley face wearing a funnel on his head upside down, which really it doesn't look much like what the Tom Terrific cartoon looked like. And I happen to have a couple of photos of this is the actual Tom Terrific cartoon. Tom Terrific was on the Captain Kangaroo show, which we were watching in the morning with a bowl of cereal until Gulardi came on. Did either of you watch Tom Terrific?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, I watched.
Do you remember what his John?
Yeah.
This is for you. What was the name of his sidekick?
Oh, the dog, right?
That'd be a good guess.
No, what's his name though? Let me think here. Oh,
Let's see. It was 5 words.
you got me.
John doesn't have it. Mighty Manfred the Wonder Dog.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I remember that now. Okay. Wow.
Now, so I looked up Tom Terrific and I found out some things that I did not know that makes me love that old cartoon even more. And it's just line drawings. It wasn't even a color cartoon. It was a black and white cartoon made with line drawing. It was made 1957 to 1959 on the Captain Kangaroo show. His sidekick was Mighty Manfred the Wonder Dog, who did nothing. He was lazy. And one of his arch enemies was a guy by the name of Krabby Appleton, whose motto was, "I'm rotten to the core." Okay, so obviously the writing wasn't that great back then either. However, it could be, and let me give you 2 examples. And one was a villain, and I have a picture of this villain here. This villain's name is Isotope Feeney the Meanie. Isotope Feeney the Meanie.
I do remember that. I could not tell you the names though, but I do remember that little character.
The shape. He looks like a little Bigfoot, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. He's a forerunner to the Bigfoot.
So he was a mad scientist dressed like Bigfoot, and one of the writers for this character was a cartoonist, a famous prize-winning cartoonist by the name of Jules Pfeiffer. Does that name ring a bell for either one of you? Jules Pfeiffer. I have a cartoon that you might recognize. Let's see. There we go. Okay. His style was very unique. He started back in the 1950s. He worked for the Village Voice in New York for years and years and years in the New Yorker. Very avant-garde, very modern. He's in the Comic Book Hall of Fame. He has a Pulitzer Prize for editorial cartooning. Just a fabulous guy. But before he started really making a name for himself as a cartoonist. He wrote dialogue for Tom Terrific. I'm sure he's still alive, by the way. He's in his 90s. He's still doing cartoons. I'm
Wow.
sure that's not on his resume.
Probably not.
No.
Oh.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about Halloween candy now. Karen, we'll start with you. What's your favorite Halloween candy?
Kit Kat.
Kit Kat. Oh, good choice. I one of my top 5. John, how about you?
No doubt. Reese's peanut butter cup.
Reese's peanut butter cups. The top 10 most popular candies in America this year. Number 1, John's favorite and mine, Reese's peanut butter cup. Number 2, M&M's, followed by, and this is a strange one I'm going to be talking about, hot tamales. Hot tamales. The not one that I would put on my list. Number 4, Skittles. 5, Sour Patch Kids for the Gen X people. Number 6, Starburst. 7, Hershey Kisses. Not one I always considered to be a Halloween candy. Number 8, everybody's least favorite. Somehow it makes it in the top 10. Candy corn. Number 9, Hershey mini bars, those little tiny things that are like half of a regular mini bar. And number 10, Snickers. So those are the top 10 most popular Halloween candies in 2023.
Okay.
Hot tamales are a cinnamon candy. That's what gives them the heat, except there's no cinnamon in them. I looked at the ingredient. There's not a teeny, tiny little speck of cinnamon dust in them anywhere. It's all artificial flavoring. So you kids who like those, look at the ingredient. It also contains carnauba wax, which your dad waxes his car with.
It's always a problematic when you look at the ingredients of some product and it says, just like you said, the carnauba wax. I mean, why
carnauba wax, my favorite. Yeah, just like Mom used to make. Okay, so we don't care about the best one. Here's the worst candies. Number 1, everybody's least favorite, circus peanuts, and I got a little bit of information on those. Number 2, candy corn. Number 3, candy corn makes both the best and worst list.
That's kind of interesting.
Go figure. Yeah. Number 3, Necco wafers. I used to like Necco wafers. John and I grew up in Catholic schools, and when we made our first communions, I remember some of the nuns used to use Necco wafers to help us practice.
That is true. That is true for me also.
How sacrilegious was that? Well, especially at a licorice one. Anyway, peanut butter kisses. So peanut butter kisses somehow got on that. The next one is wax cola bottles, and I'm going to talk about those. Yeah, Mary Jane.
Those.
Oh yeah. Mary Jane, Smarties, licorice, bit of honey, which I really like bit of honey, and Tootsie Rolls, which I also like. I think the prejudice against some of those last 5, the Mary Jane, bit of honey, and Tootsie Roll, were because they came in little pieces wrapped up. So you didn't get one big giant bar. You got little pieces.
That's my recollection too. Yeah.
Yeah.
My father used to like when we would get chocolate soldiers. Do you remember those?
Oh, were those like hard taffy?
Yeah, they were chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
My
father would go through our bag to see if we had any.
Okay. All right. So where I lost my so Karen, after we were talking about the chocolate soldiers, you also mentioned that you like the wax bottles.
No, I don't like them. I thought those were stupid.
You remember them. Okay. Well, there they are. Now they were called, for those who were sticklers for facts like John, they were called nickel nips. Nickel nips.
Okay, I remember those.
They cost a nickel, and you had to nip the top off with your teeth in order to drink what was inside. And once you drank that thick, fruity, syrupy stuff, then you could chew it like gum. The bottle, except that somewhere I think it says on the package that you're not supposed to swallow it. Yeah. Because what happens? Those bottles grow in your stomach, and the next thing you know, you're full of nickel nip.
It's like the watermelon.
I don't know if you remember, when I was in high school, I knew a girl who we used to call nickel nip.
Oh,
And if you gave her a dime, you got to see the full wet T-shirt. Oh, well,
okay.
yeah, what a horn on that one. That's for my buddy Mark down in Austin. That's his kind of joke. Okay. Mary Jane's. Karen, you were talking about the chocolate.
Yep.
Chocolates told you. Mary Jane's were peanut butter and molasses flavored candies in little wrapped. I don't have a photo of a Mary Jane. Originally made in 1914 by Robert O. Lord, who named it after his favorite aunt. Now today, if you get a candy from your favorite aunt, you may want to be careful, because if you have a drug test the following day, especially if they're called Mary Jane's.
Okay.
Interestingly, Mary Jane's are made by the Spangler Candy Company. And we've talked about Spangler before because they're in Bryan, Ohio, which is about 50 miles away from Cleveland. They manufacture a lot of those old candies that we remember from growing up and that you can find in specialty candy stores. I'm going to give the one in Cleveland a shout out, even though they're not a sponsor. B.A. Sweeties. Go there,
Great
you'll
place.
find, yeah,
Yep.
all these
Great store.
nickel nips, yeah. If
It's a
you're
great
nice if you're nice to the checkout lady, maybe she'll show you her nickel nips. Oh, why did I do that?
Oh,
Uncalled for. Uncalled for. I have a
I'm
question.
gonna be
Paul.
punished. I know. I have to go to confession.
I got a
Okay.
quick question though.
Yeah.
In the waxed candies, was there a candy called Blackjack?
yes, that was a gum.
What do you think about that, Karen? I remember I used to get those. I remember that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Jack and T-Berry. I think
Yep.
they were all made by the same company. They were the alternative to Wrigley's.
Yep.
Wrigley's Spearmint
Right.
and Double.
Sure.
If you were cool and or weird, you chewed the beech. It was beech nut. Beech nut.
It was beech nut double mint, was it? Because there was a
Double-
commercial for that.
And then also
Wrigley.
Beeman's gum came in the white.
That was another one. Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Beeman's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, so I think I have a photo. Yeah, there we go. Here's the circle.
Oh,
Circus peanut. Look at the name on this. Spangler. The same people who make all that good candy also make these circus peanuts.
People either love them or hate them, and most people hate them.
Most people hate
Yeah.
them. They date back to the 19th century, believe it or not, the 1800s, when they were sold at penny candy counters, where you went in with a penny and you could buy a whole bag full of candy. Kids actually paid a penny for these things. They also then the price went up and they were sold at 5 and dime stores. Circus peanuts, I think we talked about this a long time ago. They led to the creation of the cereal, which is still available today, called Lucky Charms, which are, yeah, it's oat cereal. Yeah. And colors that don't exist in nature, and then these marshmallow
Not
things.
natural colors. That's right, Paul.
Yeah.
Not natural.
And it happened because somebody ground up some circus peanuts and accidentally dropped them in some cereal and thought, hey, let's see if anybody will pay good money for this. And they still do.
they
Since
do.
64. Yeah, how about that? So if anybody wonders what circus peanuts taste like, I happen to have some information for you. They taste a lot like these things right here. These are those peanuts you find in the boxes you get from Amazon. They look almost like circus peanuts, and they taste like
They're not very flavorful, that's for sure.
No.
All
right, so the same company where I've been getting all this survey company did a survey of the most popular candies by state. And I thought this was interesting. So Ohio, our state, the most popular candy by sales in Ohio is Blow Pops. Now, Blow Pops are Tootsie, they're Tootsie Pop without the Tootsie inside of them. Instead, they have bubble gum.
Yep.
I'm not sure I go for that. Number two, M&M's, John's favorite. Number 3, Starburst. In Michigan, Karen, where Karen grew up, number 1 candy, Starburst. Number 2, I'm sorry to have to report this, candy corn.
No.
Yeah. And number 3, Butterfingers. I like Butterfingers.
Butterfingers are
Oh,
good.
it's a very unique candy. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. In Texas, we have a lot of listeners down in Texas. Number 1, Sour Patch Kids. Number 2, Reese's Cups. Number 3, Starburst. Starburst appears again. West Virginia, where I was just at, where our buddy Brian lives, a fan of the show. Hershey's mini bars, followed by blow pops and hot tamales of all things. So Brian's the one who's buying all those hot tamales. South Carolina, we have a couple of listeners down there. Skittles is number 1. Butterfinger again, number 2, and candy corn for some reason, number 3. And Pennsylvania, I want to throw in, we had a couple listeners in Pennsylvania. Hershey mini bars, number 1, M&M's number 2, Skittles number 3. So let me see it here. Is that the end of our candy section here? Oh, yeah. So today is.
Wait one second.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Karen.
Pennsylvania, with the 3 that they like, they're all made by Hershey and Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Right.
Hershey's in Pennsylvania.
That's right.
That's true. We could do a whole show on candy, because a number of Hershey's was the first candy company, chocolate company in Pennsylvania, and other like the guy who makes Reese's cups, the guy who came out with the idea of Reese's cup, worked for Hershey's, and then he left and he started his own company. I think his name was Reese, obviously, made the Reese's cups. Mars also was in Pennsylvania. They were originally in Pennsylvania, and a number of other companies were spin-offs of Hershey. So Hershey was a brilliant man. If you ever have the opportunity, go visit Hershey, Pennsylvania. Interesting city, very interesting stories about the company and what they did for the city, and of course dentists love going there because it's like the capital of cavities.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. So when you're done eating candy and you're still hungry, you want to go to a fast food place. Here's a McDonald's for you to go to. This is in Fatoci, Italy. I have no idea where that is, and I'm probably mispronouncing it. It has a glass floor, which reveals something very interesting. Underneath this lady walking here in this McDonald's, there are 3 skeletons in glass. They were found by archaeologists. They date back 2,000 years. And the arrangement that they made as a compromise satisfied the archaeologist and the McDonald's management as well. Although customers come in and they all go ooh whenever anybody orders a McRib. So it has a little bit of an impact on people. So the story behind this, John, you're the history buff here.
Sure.
McDonald's was building the store, and they found out that there was an ancient Roman road that they were building on top of. And as they started excavating, they found the skeletons. Now, in Rome, there's just so many of these archaeological sites that they just can't preserve all of them. So McDonald's compromised with the local government, with the archaeologists. They put the glass floor in, and you can actually see the skeleton. This is looking directly down through the glass. You can see almost an entire full skeleton. All 3 are men.
Wow.
In fact, they studied them, and they think that they were working on the road that was underneath this McDonald's. And you can tell that they're construction workers because all 3 of them have cigarettes in one hand and a coffee cup in the other.
Oh.
Somewhere in there is an orange cone, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Believe it or not, John and Karen and everybody out there, the restaurant lets you walk underneath the floor so you can look at the skeletons directly, and which is even better than what the store manager wanted. He would have settled for allowing him to fill the ball pit with plastic skulls. He thought the kids would really enjoy that, but didn't like that. So you get to look at the skeletons. Sure. I don't know. I'm not sure I would go for that. Okay, one more Halloween story. City officials in Grantsville, Utah, ordered a homeowner to take down his Halloween display. I'm going to put up a picture of the Halloween display because it featured a giant skeleton pole dancing on a street sign. We're looking at it, John, on Karen, and you can see it, skeleton upside down. Nobody even noticed this skeleton until Charlie Sheen happened to be walking by and pulled out a roll of dollar bills and tried to shove it in between her ribs.
Oh, my.
Now, if you look closely, you can see one of the
Oh.
other skeletons is holding a handful of dollar bills. So very authentic. As far as I know, John, I've never been in a strip club. Maybe you have. Is that what it looks like?
I can just comment from previous experience, which is limited. No.
Good recovery. Good recovery. Okay. So, all these people that are complaining about it, how do they know what a stripper pole is? That's what I want to know.
That's
Halloween,
that's a great point by you, Paul.
yeah, Halloween has become probably our most adult holiday of all the
Right.
holidays. It really, adults have taken over. In fact, kids today, they treat Halloween like New Year's Eve. They stay home and let the crazy people go out while they.
There's a nice comparison there. Very
Yeah,
good.
exactly. They can go and buy a bag of candy
Sure.
and eat it themselves. Why not? It was simpler in our days.
It was.
I know. Yeah. All we did, we got a pumpkin, we gutted it, we got all those seeds out, carved an ugly face in it, put a candle inside. When we came home, and we gorged ourselves on candy and watched that face collapse as the heat.
That's exactly right.
What fun we had.
We did.
All right, one more story on proof that Halloween is for adults. I can't believe this. A company in England by the name of 19 Crimes, a wine company, took 100 bottles of water, put them in an oak casket, buried them in a cemetery in London's Tower Hamlets, the Tower Hamlets Cemetery. Then they went with an exorcist and they dug it up, and the exorcist and a priest. They also took a priest. They dug it up, and now they're selling the bottles of wine aged in a casket in a cemetery. The exorcist said that the wine is probably cursed anyways, even though the priest was there. Yeah. John, I know I'll speak for myself. I've had cursed wine in my life. It's called Boone's Farm Apple.
Now we're going back to some common college days there with
there you go.
mini green
Boone's,
springs and all those things. Oh yeah.
Boone's Farm and its colorful red sister Strawberry Hill.
Oh yes, it was. Wow.
Boone's Farm was actually made in 1961 by the Gallo Company, which is, a fairly reputable wine company, made from fermented apples, and it was called good old fashioned apple wine. But boy, there was something in there that didn't like us. All right, so I mentioned a celebrity who had a UFO encounter. This is great. I had this on Facebook this week. Lots and lots of people commented on it. Goldie Hawn admitted in an interview that she saw a UFO when she was and was later by 3 aliens with triangular shaped heads and a tiny nose, no ears, and a slash for a mouth. And these aliens touched her, and I quote, and she said, and it felt like the finger of God. Now, she couldn't say that today, although she did say it. I mean, she did say it today. But, this would probably get more women into the UFO field by, having encounters like that, I guess.
I have a question.
Oh, sure, John.
Didn't she have a phone available to take a picture? I mean, wouldn't that stand to reason? I mean,
okay.
Oh my gosh. Unless it's happened a long
Since you
time.
brought that up, you're right. Since you brought that up, remind me to tell the story about her pseudo husband, Kurt Russell, because they're not married. They've been living together for 40 some years.
Something like that.
But anyway, here's what I think. After 50 years, they should have given her the Flying Fickle Finger of Fate award from Laugh-In, because it has a finger on it, and she saw something.
Right. Okay.
Do you remember Fate?
No.
I was a huge Laugh-In fan.
I watch Laughing all the time. Sure, Rowan and Martin's Laughing. Oh yeah,
show.
Sure.
Again, going back to the Gulardi years,
late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, 60s and 70s. Rowan and Martin's Laughing. The hosts were Dan Rowan and Dick Martin. Sketch comedy long before Saturday Night Live. ran from 1968 to 1973. Flying Fickle Finger of Fate Award was given to actual dubious achievements by public officials or institutions at the time. So it was a real news thing. In fact, I think I have a picture of there you go. There's Dick and
There you
Dan,
are. Sure.
the Flying Fickle Finger of Fate. So I have a close encounter, not a close encounter, but 6 Degrees of Separation with Laugh In. My mentor in the comedy world, a guy by the name of Gene Parrott, excuse me, just passed away this past year, was one of the writers on in the later years with Rowan and Martin's Laughing. Very funny guy. But you're talking about Goldie Hawn. There's this legend, and I'll keep it short. There's a series of famous UFOs seen in the, I think in the 70s, in 60s and 70s in Phoenix. They're called the Phoenix Lights, and it was a string of lights that flashed across the sky, seen by many people. The military claimed that they saw it, but allegedly the first person to report seeing them was Kurt Russell. Back then, he was an actor. I guess he still is an actor, but he was a famous, good-looking young actor. He was flying with his son, not one from the Goldie Hawn relationship, and he claimed he was the first person to see the Phoenix Light. So you would think if Goldie Hawn is with Kurt Russell, who is this famous UFO spotter, but then again, John, he didn't have a camera with him either. So,
but you know that. Well, you could only maybe at that time they really weren't that available. I mean, do you have a year on this one, Paul, when he supposedly saw this?
It was in either the late 60s or early 70s.
But he's gonna,
there were no cell phones, right?
The best he can do was a Kodak camera, probably at that point. You know,
there you go, an Instamatic. That's right. Okay, so boy, we're bursting old brain cells today with
we're going back in time. Back in time.
Okay, so we mentioned John is making a field trip down to Florida. And our next story is about a Bigfoot from Florida. So here we go. So a musician turned filmmaker by the name of Stacy Brown Jr. Submitted this report recently. He's been looking for Bigfoot for over 10 years, and he finally saw it. And you know, listeners of the show know it's called the swamp ape or the skunk ape in Florida. So Stacy is out camping with his friend in a bandmate, the bass, I think it was the bass player in Chattahoochee, Florida. I love the names in Florida, Chattahoochee. And so they're looking for Bigfoot. Now, for one thing, he should have taken a drummer because, you know, a bass player is an important member of the band. Drummers are expendable, as we learned on This Is Spinal Tap. You know, you lose one drum, you get another one. It's just... So, so my apologies to all the drummers out there listening to the show. So anyways, he says they're walking through the woods. All of a sudden, Bigfoot was there at the, I quote, damn edge of the woods. And he was standing there looking at us, and he was breathing. You could hear him breathing. He said Bigfoot was 7 feet tall. The hair was all stringy and nasty and matted together and sparse on top. Bigfoot going bald. That's the first time I've heard of a Bigfoot going bald. So that alone makes this a unique,
also to me,
unique sighting, right, John? So here comes the picture. So he got a thermal image of Bigfoot. He had a thermal camera. So there's your thermal image.
Beautiful.
Great picture.
It's conclusive. Not only is it conclusive, I mean, it dispels any doubt that anyone would have. You should show it to your friends and your neighbors or whatever and say, look, here's a good picture of the swamp ape or skunk ape. Oh, my gosh.
My apologies to everyone listening to John on their earbuds because they now have to stop and dig the sarcasm out of their ear.
I'm not very sarcastic, but I was on that one. That's exactly right, Paul and Karen.
Definitely a blurry picture there. Okay, so he said they decided to stay anyways, and later that night they heard 2 Bigfoots calling back and forth. One sounded like he was saying Marco, the other one was saying Polo. Then they went in their tent and something pressed down on the top of their tent. So that really scared them at that point. So they waited until dawn and they ran away, but not before they found a track. And they I don't know if they came back later or if they did it that night. But here's a picture of Stacy and a plaster image of the track, the Bigfoot track. Now Stacy
got
looks
a
like
feather
a
in
rock
his
singer,
cap.
doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got a feather, right? Feather
Yeah.
up there.
He's got a feather, yeah. So that I'm not sure what that meant. I don't want to be politically incorrect here. So,
Okay.
but he's holding what looks like a giant Bigfoot imprint. Now, he also took another photo of Bigfoot. So here's his other photo of Bigfoot. There you go.
Oh,
Oh, that one's even better than the first one.
yeah. Nice.
There's some sarcasm for your other year, courtesy of John DiNallo, our Bigfoot expert there. In other words, this is not even blurry. It's just a shadowy image of something. We don't even know what it is. So, John, you're not the only person disappointed by all these photos of Bigfoot. Bigfoot himself, or herself, as the case may be, is also disappointed. And I had a couple of instances where people sent me some comments about Bigfoot's disappointment. So here's the first one right here. So this is a cartoon by Dan Peraro, one of my favorite. I lost him. Where'd he go? There.
Other way.
He's weird. There he is.
Oh,
Oh, got it. Okay, so this is Bigfoot trying to get on an airplane, and the clerk is looking at his passport and asking if he doesn't have a better picture of himself.
It's very funny.
Good point, right? Even
Yep.
Bigfoot. So this is how frustrated Bigfoot is. Here's another cartoon, and this one says, "This is Bigfoot looking for a good photo," and on his computer, and he says, "Crap, every one of them is so freaking blurry." I believe that's a direct quote by John DiNallo there, right?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Wow, those are two funny,
Look at-
funny cartoons there. Yeah, very good.
Look at that drawing of Bigfoot. That's probably the worst drawing I've ever seen.
Yep.
I would say so. Oh, boy.
Speaking of bad drawings, here we go. So now let's go to the Loch Ness monster. If you think that's bad, so Sash Lake, the guy's name, he's visiting Scotland from Wiltshire, and he goes on a bus ride. He's looking out. He's going around the lake, the loch, and he's looking out the window, and it's foggy and it's raining. So I'm warning you. But he says something caught his eye for about 5 seconds, made me jump out of my skin, direct quote. He saw a huge black mass in the middle of the loch, swimming away from him. But he only saw it for 8 seconds, so there wasn't enough time to pull his phone out and take an image. However, John, he drew a picture of it for you because he knew that you wanted to see what it looked like.
What did he come up with?
Here is the image of. Here's.
Looks like a
And
beehive.
the whole lock. He managed to get the whole lock into the picture.
It's like a beehive, like in a horizontal position to a tree. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. For those of you, and my apologies to Sash if you're listening, but I'm sorry. For those of you who can't see the photo, the drawing, it looks like something a second or third grader would have drawn. A tree in the middle. The lake fills the 8.5 by 11 piece of construction paper that they were drawing on, and right in the middle of it is a black blob. That's all I can say.
Some things are just left better unsaid.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see what we're doing on time here. I want to talk about this. There's one more trivia thing here. So this is a world record. I don't think we have done a world record yet. Oh, we did one at the beginning. So this is the world record cheese sandwich. This comes from Wisconsin. These two brothers, Exodus and Iggy Chaudhry. They set a Guinness World Record for the world's largest cheese sandwich. Used 300 pounds of dough, 60 pounds of cheese, 2.5 inches thick, 10, almost 11 feet long, 6.25 feet wide grilled cheese sandwich. There's a picture of it right there. Just like Mom used to make. Unfortunately, they couldn't eat it. They had to donate it because nobody brought any tomato soup to eat it with.
It doesn't look appetizing at all.
It doesn't at all.
They actually did donate it. They donated to a soup kitchen, which obviously had some tomato soup. But believe it or not, tomato soup and cheese was invented during World War II. Campbell's made tomato soup. That was one of the first soups that they made back in the late 1800s. Kraft came out with processed cheese in 1911. But it wasn't until the Depression and really World War II when cheese sandwiches, grilled cheese, and tomato soup came together. And during the Depression, it was because it was cheap. And during World War II, it was easy to make for the soldiers on the front line. So when they came home, they had, believe it or not, after fighting in Germany and France and wherever else they were fighting, they still had a hankering for tomato soup and grilled cheese. So they had their wives or their moms or girlfriends make them tomato soup and grilled cheese. I thought that was unbelievable that World War II was responsible for that.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, all right. So I want to mention the lady who married the ghost just quickly. Her name is Brocarde. She's a singer in England. Apparently famous in England, not so famous in the United States. I had to look her up. Karen, I know way back, maybe to when we were at Joe Max, we used to talk about the lady who fell in love with the ghost. This is her. Fell in love with the ghost, married the ghost. I think she married him on a pirate ship or something.
No,
then
I
he
remember
cheated
that.
on her.
Yep.
Yeah, he cheated on her. She left him. She finally divorced him. So now this has turned her off, not just on ghosts, but on men in general. And here's what she did. She joined a convent. She joined a convent. The ghost, being married to a ghost, forced her to join a convent. Now, John and I always mention we went to a Catholic grade school. We both had nuns. She's a teaching nun, and she had a special yardstick made just for her in the shape of a cross. So she could keep the ghost away and also beat the crap out of.
Oh my God! Oh.
But I think I will skip on that. So
So
we used to go to baseball when we were kids. We used to go to see the Indians. And John, I know you remember, there were always a lot of nuns who were in attendance at the Indians games.
Yes.
And this is the reason why. Well, A, because they probably got free tickets, but B, I believe that they used to go just to watch batting practice. So that they could learn how to swing that yardstick. And here's a couple of nuns.
Let's leave it at that, Paul.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our trip down memory lane there. And I think we've reached, yes, okay. That's my sign that we've reached the end of the news portion of What in the World. And that means it's time for everybody's favorite weird sports show, What in World of Sports with John DiNallo. Every week I ask John to come up with a strange sport for us, something we've never heard of, something that is unusual, maybe up and coming, maybe old from another country, something that maybe we could participate in, or even better, become owners and make us filthy rich. So this one just might do it for us, John. So why don't you introduce your sport for us, and I'll make sure we got your photos lined up.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea, Paul. And thanks for the great introduction. So our sport this week is probably a sport that no one has ever heard of. And the name of the sport is the Florida Man Games. Let me explain.
Is that Florida Man Games or Florida Man Games?
No, Florida Man, M-A-N, Games.
Yeah, games, okay.
The Florida Man Games haven't actually taken place yet, like I mentioned. Like so many other things, you are hearing it first on What in the World.
Yeah.
Now, the games, this is competition. The games are scheduled to take place in St. Augustine, Florida, on February 24th, 2024. Our regular listeners are familiar with the notorious Florida Man. I should say, quote, Florida, unquote, man, because that is the resident of Florida that does odd or very dangerous things.
Or both.
Okay, the Florida Man has been known, as it's been reported, to ride a human-sized hamster wheel across the Atlantic Ocean. Also, the Florida Man is known as throwing an alligator through a Wendy's drive-through window and also writing messages on the backs of crabs. You know the ones.
That's right. We know Florida Man. That's him.
Right. Now, so
a staple of our show. Okay. Yes, so now they have their own games. Tell us more.
Now, so the Florida Man Games will give Florida residents a chance to compete in legal events. These are legalized events, like beer belly sumo wrestling, evading the police, or knocking each other into a pool of mud with pool noodles. Now, I'm not kidding you about this. These games are going to actually take place again, February of next year. And the games were cooked up by a St. Augustine resident by the name of Pete Melfi. And as soon as the idea hit social media, he received a huge surge of interest from people everywhere, including the very famous American Gladiator stars, Dan Nitro Clark and Lori Ice Fetrick.
Oh, Nitro and Ice. They're famous.
Nitro and Ice, get ready for this, will serve as judges at the games.
Oh, that makes it worth watching. Hopefully we can watch it.
And let me explain the games again. I just kind of touched on a few of the games, but they're actually right now, we have 9 and counting. So here they come. Weaponized pool noodle mud duel. I'll repeat that again. Weaponized pool noodle mud duel. In this game, the participants will test their strength inside the Florida Man Games Coliseum. There's an actual constructed facility, which is an above ground pool filled to the top with mud.
Ooh.
The second one I find most interesting. It's called Evading Arrest Obstacle Course. In this game, the contestants will jump over fences, through backyards, and then sprint away, get ready for this, from actual police officers.
Oh,
real police. Yeah. Wow.
The third game, Category 5 Cash Grab, which I think is very, very amusing. The participants will subject themselves to Category 5 wins that are generated by fans, and these wins will be blowing at them as they scramble to catch as much cash as they can.
Wow, that 120 miles an hour, something like
no,
that.
They're going to be lucky to be standing, Paul and Karen, in audience.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, right.
Okay, now, there's another game, Game 4, which combines a catalytic converter, 2 bikes, and a handful of copper pipes. And it is a race against time where the contestants live a day in the life of a Florida man headline.
Stealing copper pipes and catalytic converters. Wow.
Oh, sure. And then the 2 bikes, too, which also make it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, self-explanatory here. A mullet contest.
Oh,
there we go.
Mullet contest. Enough said. Here's the 6th one. Beer belly Florida sumo wrestling. So
I like the sounds of that one.
Yeah, it really just kind of rolls off your tongue.
Yeah.
Participants dive right into the beer belly of the beast. As one tries to blast your opponent out of the ring. If you blast your opponent out of the ring, you're the winner, so to speak. Okay, the 7th game. Florida, good, excellent picture, Paul. Excellent photo there. The Florida Man Pinup. So, the wild and wonderful women from the state of Florida will be judged by some of Florida's, quote, most notable women, unquote.
I want to point something out for our buddy Don down in Florida. That this Florida ma'am, it's an AI generated picture. It's not a real photo.
AI generated, beautiful. Okay.
Yeah. But she is holding a boa constrictor, which are running rampant across Florida. It's not one of the 19-foot ones, although I think that would be cool. I don't know how many feet it is, and I'll describe the picture is best that most people don't even see the snake if they're looking at this picture.
most people are
I
focused on
wonder
something
why.
else. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Paul
Go
and Karen,
ahead, John.
we've got the last two games here. I'm sure that you're waiting
Oh,
with
okay.
interest to hear what they are. Okay, the eighth one is chicken coop bingo.
Oh my God.
Now, I'm gonna just give you 4 or 5 words, and you can figure out the rest. Chicken, chickens plural, bingo cards, and poop.
Yeah, got it.
That's it.
The ninth
That's
one,
it. We got the image.
right, and the ninth and final one, thankfully, is 911 Fright Night. Now, in this competition, police officers and firefighters will square off with each other to close out the inaugural Florida Man Games.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Now, in closing, the Florida Man Games sound like an event that other states will want to try. For example, here in Ohio, we have plenty of beer bellies, but I think we'll replace the pool noodles in the mud duel with smoked or fresh kielbasa.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what a great idea. I love it.
I would think that would be wonderful. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to check my schedule for February of next year, and possibly I'll be remote and possibly be able to do a remote not broadcast or a remote show from St. Augustine in February.
Oh,
if
Wouldn't
things
that be
come
neat?
together.
Yes.
wow. That would be great. Boy, we could make the national TV with something like that.
Oh, of
I would
course.
hope so.
All right, John. So that's what are they called again? The Florida Man
Games. Got a catchy name.
coming in
You think
in
about it.
2024. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. This is February 24th. Great stuff. Great stuff there. Boy, this this guy obviously put a lot of thought into putting this together. And a typical Florida resident, he knows the Florida man well. So each game is pertinent.
Yeah, relevant to
Florida
things that have happened in Florida,
Yeah.
right? Exactly.
Yeah. So I loved your suggestion about the kielbasa. In fact, I went digging. I knew you were going to mention that. I went digging for some kielbasa that we could possibly use. And look at the size of this one here.
Whoa.
This sausage, this is a Hungarian sausage. This is about maybe 2.5, 3 feet long. I'm not sure which butcher shop this came from. But boy, get whacked in the head with that and you're in big trouble.
And you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble for sure.
Yep.
Now, I don't believe we've ever participated in games of such an entire set of games of such sort like these. But John and I participated back in college in one Ohio Man game where kielbasa was involved, and this was back in college. It was on Halloween, as a matter of fact. John, I don't know if you remember that because we didn't go begging for candy. We went looking for beer.
Sure.
So, but at some point we were going to have a competition for the best costume, and John and I showed up in the same costume. And I want to show you the costume and why I called this a kielbasa fight. I believe I was dressed as a fresh kielbasa and John was a smoked.
That's right. There's a distinction between the two. Yeah, sure.
So I imagine John won because he has a thicker skin. Those smoked kielbasa.
Got it.
Check. Visit us on YouTube and you can see John and I dressed in kielbasa costume for Halloween. John, as always, thanks again for a great sport.
Oh, you're welcome.
Wow.
All right, let's take those kielbasas down and get back to the last portion of our show. Once we're done with sports, it's time for everybody's favorite weird news game, Bluff the co-host. Rules are simple. I have 3 stories similar to the ones we've been telling all afternoon. One big difference, those were true. These may be real, may be a bluff. It's up to Karen, John, and you playing at home to decide. Betting is allowed. Place your bets. John and Karen, hands on the buzzer. There's a theme of candy in all three stories today
Okay.
in honor of Halloween, okay? Or chocolate. All right, story number one. If you missed watching the evening news before going out to dinner and your family hates it when you scroll on your phone during the meal, a restaurant in Rome has just what you need: newsy lasagna. Their lasagna noodles are imprinted every day with the latest news reports, with each noodle having a single story written in edible ink, which does not dissolve when boiled or covered with tomato sauce. Of course, you have to scrape away the sauce and the cheese before reading the newsy lasagna, but it's a small price to pay for keeping peace in the family during dinner. Okay, so the restaurant in Rome that's printing news on lasagna noodles and serving it. What do you say, Karen? Real or bluff?
Well, it sounds like a lot of work, but it's so unique. I'm going to say it's true.
Oh, wow. So Karen says it's true. All right, John, how about you?
I think part of me says it's true, but then I kind of think about it, and I don't know how practical it is, but these are not practical stories. They truly aren't. So, but I'm gonna go against the grain in this one. I'm gonna disagree with Karen. I'm gonna say it's a bluff.
Okay. After a lot of serious thought from our lasagna expert here, John, John says it's a bluff. Karen says it's real. Let's check with the judges, and the judges say, congratulations, John, that's a bluff.
Oh, well.
I understand Karen's thinking on this, though, because like you said, Karen, I mean, it's, is it possible they could do that? Sure. It's just if someone goes to the extra effort to do the work.
That's right.
Oh, maybe it's something we could try.
In the future. Might happen in the future.
Yep. 3D printers.
You get your news with the food, with your food.
Mention it at your favorite Italian restaurant next time you're there. Sure. But wait until after they serve your food before you do that. Okay, so the score is,
because you're not going to like the news anyway. You're not going to like.
There you
I mean, it's going to be bad to begin with. So yeah.
Right. All right. So it scores 1-0. John is in the lead. Boy, John's been on a roll the past few weeks. So.
I'm living charmed life over here. And that's
well, Halloween. Maybe the Halloween spirits will help Karen on the next two. So let's get right to story number two. Fans of Chocolate Flakes breakfast cereal in Japan are excited about a new way to have their breakfast while driving or riding the subway to work. Drinkable chocolate flakes. The makers have tried this before, but the chocolate-covered cornflakes kept turning into mush in the canned milk. So this time they used chocolate milk and replaced the chocolate-covered cornflakes with corn kernels to give Choco Flakes drink the memorable chocolatey, corny taste. It's for a limited time only, so get your liquid chocolate corn in a can breakfast while supplies last. Okay, so Chocolate Flakes breakfast in a can made with real corn kernels. Let's start with John. What do you say, real or bluff?
Well, I'm thinking this has got to be a bluff, Paul, because if it's a kernel, don't they have to pop it? If it's a kernel, you're not going to be chewing an actual kernel of corn. My understanding, when you cook a bag of popcorn, you have the kernels that don't pop, right? So maybe I'm too much on the logical side of this one, but that's what I'm thinking.
and also something that I don't think John would buy. Right? Okay, so John says
you're right on
chocolatey flakes in a can, drinkable chocolatey flakes in a can is a bluff. Karen, how about you? Or no, you said it. Yeah, you said it's a bluff. Karen, how about you?
Yeah, I don't think it's real either, because I just can't picture people on the subway drinking this can of goop. So I'm going to say it's a bluff.
Okay, so Karen says it's a bluff as well. It's a bluff. Karen says it's a bluff. Let's check with the judges, and the judges say, sorry, you're both wrong. That is a real story.
Paul,
yeah.
Paul, stare up a picture for us on this when you get a chance, will you? Oh my God.
Okay.
I'd like to get some photographic evidence on it.
I am not making this up. Picture from the story shows the can, shows the liquid, shows the corn kernels at the bottom. And that's, people are surprised initially, but then they said once they tasted the the chocolate milk mixed with corn kernels. They kind of liked it, and it did remind them of chocolatey flakes. So it's, it may outlive the limited time only. Okay, so that means John is still in the lead, 1-0.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, everybody knows points are doubled in round number 3, so Karen still has a chance. So let's get right to it. Once there were only gummy bears and gummy worms. Then there were gummy marijuana bears and gummy marijuana worms. Now comes the gummy dill pickle, a life-size gummy candy that looks exactly like a kosher dill pickle, but tastes like something that has the flavor of a dill pickle, the sweetness of a gummy candy, and a little green apple for color. Made by a major pickle company in partnership with a major candy company, the gummy dill pickle weighs 4 ounces and comes in single packs or in a whole jar. Before you get some for your next party, the gummy dill pickle is not kosher, vegan, or good for your teeth. All right, so Karen, what do you say? Kosher gummy dill, non-kosher, I'm sorry, gummy dill pickles, real or bluff?
I hope it's a bluff. I don't want to see people walking around.
Would you want it if it was kosher?
It's a bluff.
It's a bluff. Okay, Karen says it's a bluff. Enough said. John, how about you? Real or bluff?
When Karen says, where you hope it's like not real, then you know where you're going with that, because we've had numerous incidences and experiences that we've heard about. Yeah, in this general area. No, I'm going to say it's a bluff. I'm going to say it's a bluff also.
Oh, wow. Okay, so both John and Karen say that the gummy dill pickle is a bluff. Let's check with the judges, and the judges have bad news for both of you. You can get gummy dill pickles in finer candy stores across the nation, made by it's not Vlasic. I can't think of the name of the other company, but it's a major dill pickle company that's selling them. And people say they actually have a taste of dill pickle. It's got the little bumps on it and everything. It looks just like a dill pickle.
Oh, wow.
No.
No. I have a feeling if you pass out gummy dill pickles tonight and on trick or treat, you will be getting tricked later on at night.
I'm sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Soap your windows, Karen. They'll soap your windows. Or throw it.
John did win. John wins 1-0. So I think you're on a roll there about three weeks in a row, John. So boy, don't get too cocky.
I'm not. I've won almost by a matter of default. I mean, it's like I got lucky here. So anyway.
All right, great. Well, congratulations again.
Where my $300 is. Remember a couple shows ago you said?
Yeah, that's right. I lost. Something happened to the $100.
Wait a minute. It was actually $300 if you remember correctly.
Yeah, from our buddy Mark. I'll have to talk to him and have him send another 100 for you.
Tell Mark I check my mail every day. I look at my mail every day. Somehow, some amount of money's not there.
Oh boy!
Hoping maybe tomorrow it'll be there.
Oh. Poor John. What can I say? Other than thanks again for all of you listening to another episode of What in the World. I want to thank Karen, Karen Hale, our media mogul at newclevelandradio.net and co-host. Please visit newclevelandradio.net. Check out all the fine podcasts, including What in the World. You have information there on how to find us on Spotify, download us, find us on YouTube. Please like us, follow us, do all those good things so we know you're out there. Also, I'm on Facebook, so let me know that you're listening. Send Karen a message. You can, if you're watching live, you can send messages that way. There's all kind of ways to let us know that you're watching. We really do appreciate it. As always, thanks to my old buddy John DiNallo for What in the World of Sports and his great color commentary this week. We apologize for all the frustration we provide to John with the blurry photos and the lack of money in the mail.
It's all in good fun, Paul. All in good fun.
I'll get you a dill pickle, a gummy dill pickle to make up for it.
Oh, I have to see how I feel after I eat it. Then, yeah, I'll give you a report on that. I'll tell you what. I tell you if it makes any kind of significant change or whatever.
There you go. That's right. Well, we guarantee you won't harm you. And as always, thanks to everyone out there for listening. Whether you're listening, watching us on YouTube, listening on Spotify or on Apple, thanks so much for doing it. You're the reason why we're here every week. We hope you have as much fun listening as we do putting the show on. And since it's Halloween, I want to wish everybody a happy Halloween. I hope you have great luck in collecting your candy. Don't party too much tonight, because we want to see all of you again in next week on What in the World. So
Absolutely.
On that note, happy
And
Halloween.
don't forget to vote next
Have a good week, everybody.
Don't forget to vote. That's right.